Hopefully everyone had an excellent little break there. Welcome to the third session of GameRT's March mini conference on building character. I'm Carl DiNardo. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm one of the research and instruction librarians at the University of South Florida. I am also a GameRT member at large and serve on the programming and strategic planning committees for the roundtable. And I love that. If you have any interest in the type of things we're talking about today, I really do encourage you to kind of reach out on Discord. There's many ways to get a hold of us and find out how you can get involved. This session will run from now until 1:45 Central, and it's being recorded and live streamed to Twitch. All the recordings of sessions will be available on our Twitch channel after the event. Copies of the slides for presentations are linked in the conference group resource doc, which will be linked in the chat. For this session, we're going to have two presentations, which will be followed by a question and answer. So feel free to use the question and answer function in Zoom for your questions to the presenters. And for presenters, we'll address those at the after both of those sessions. So don't feel you need to monitor that. If you've never used this Q&A function before in Zoom, please see the note about it that's being added to the chat. If you're watching on Twitch, our tech team will be snagging your questions and adding them to the Zoom question and answer. And we will have our Q&A for all presenters at the end of the session. And so with that being said, let's get started. Our first presenters are Anastasia Thanukos and Teresa MacDonald with their talk, "It Made You Feel Like a Scientist, an immersive escape-style game for libraries and museums, builds STEM self-efficacy and supports science identity." And we are ready whenever you are.
All right, I think you should be hearing me now, and I am going to share my screen and get this presentation up. So let's see. Okay, you should now be able to see a big view of these slides. So I am Anastasia Thanukos from the University of California Museum of Paleontology, and my co-presenter and collaborator on this project today is Teresa MacDonald from the University of Kansas Natural History Museum. And we are eager to share with you an immersive escape-style game for libraries and museums. The game is called Venom Venture. This is a 20 to 45-minute escape-style game that is played in an inflatable lab, which you can see in the background of these photos. Now, it is typical of escape games in many ways, except one big difference is that this game is designed to teach STEM concepts, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. This game also is targeting families, so it's designed for groups of up to 5 players with at least one child, age 8 and up. The game is bilingual, English and Spanish, so everything in the game is in both languages, with the idea that a bilingual family could negotiate across both languages in whichever they're most comfortable in. And most importantly, this game travels. So it pops up at natural history museums and public libraries for a few weeks, then it deflates, gets packed back into crates and shipped on to its next destination. So this game is funded, and its current tour, which you'll see on this slide, is funded by the National Institutes of Health. So far, the game has been at Berkeley Public Library, Stanislaus County Library, and Independence Public Library in Kansas, as well as a few different natural history museums. And it will be going to Estherville Public Library, as well as ALA 2025, and a few other conferences and museums. But as you'll hear at the end, we are hoping to continue this tour on into the future. So as I mentioned before, Venom Venture is an educational game. It is designed to engage families in solving an evolutionary biomedical mystery in which they learn how to interpret evolutionary trees, which are visual representations that show how different species are related to one another. And you can see an image of an evolutionary tree here on the right-hand side of your screen. The game is also designed to teach how evolutionary relationships are relevant to medicine. and it's designed to give families a positive and memorable experience of engaging with science concepts together, contributing to STEM identity. But before I jump into STEM identity and some of our results, I want to tell you a little bit about the game. What happens in Venom Venture? The answer is lots of fun stuff. If you come to your local library to play Venom Venture, the first thing you will do is play a warm-up game of Tree Twister, which is just like the game of Twister, except it is played on an evolutionary tree of snakes. And once you've warmed up to the game, you will enter the escape game, which the first room is designed as a fantastical greenhouse full of mysterious objects. And once you are in there, you will be sent on a mission to save the world. And I'm just going to play a short clip, a few seconds of our mission video. This is our Spanish language mission video.
Doctora López? Leticia? ¿Alguien? Tú!
And she will go on to explain that their city is being attacked by a fantastical species of venomous plants, which is making everyone break out in itchy purple splotches, which you can see she is an unfortunate victim of the plants. They need anti-venom, but your family is the only one that is in the lab who can find and make the correct anti-venom for them. So that is your challenge over the course of the game. And in order to do that, you need to solve puzzles. And as you solve puzzles, you collect 4 venomous yet adorable plants. You can see one of our players holding on to one of the plants here with 3 others in the background. And these plants have some surprises in store. Once you collect all 4, families will discover, as this family is about to do, that the plants dance. So families have a lot of fun with that. And as they continue to play, they'll discover that the plants have other secret abilities. For example, they also talk. If you hold food items up to them, either a plush lizard or a plush mouse, they will say either yum or yuck, depending on which that plant prefers. And as the family continues to play the game, they'll do a lot of typical escape style things. They open secret compartments in a table. They use a special tool to scan DNA barcodes. They enter a second room, which is a mysterious lab where a box of venom samples magically pops open. You see that venom sample box in the background there. And they interact with a machine that brews antivenom. And this is what this player here is doing. She's looking into the antivenomatic, which is your antivenom brewer. And once you've selected the type of antivenom that you want to brew, you have to test it. So I'm going to show you one of the test videos that players view. So here is a poor mouse that's been bitten by the plant behind him. It is broken out in itchy purple splotches. It needs antivenom. Is this the correct one? We'll find out. He drinks it. Congratulations, that is the correct antivenom. So the family that sees that video will go on to win the game shortly. And of course, as with any escape game, you have to celebrate with a silly photo, as this team is, who have unfortunately been bitten and broken out in itchy purple splotches themselves. And in this game, players will also take home a comic book. This is the comic book Plant on a Rampage. It comes in both English and Spanish. And that comic book continues the narrative that players began in the game, and it interweaves with that narrative the stories from real evolutionary scientists, and it has more science puzzles for families to solve. So embedded within all of those puzzles and fun tech are a few key tree thinking skills. So families will learn the direction of time on a tree, the meaning of branches and shared ancestry, the inheritance of traits and trait changes along branches of a tree, as well as how to calibrate the tree through time and reconstruct ancestral character states. Now, I said at the beginning that the theme of our presentation today was STEM identity and self-efficacy. So to see how the game connects to these concepts, let's start with some definitions. We can view STEM identity as one's recognition by oneself and others as a STEM person. And this relates to competence, performance, as well as sense of belonging in the community. And STEM self-efficacy is belief in one's ability to perform STEM-related tasks. So relevant to Venom Venture, oops, passed one more, we can look at the following questions. Does Venom Venture provide an enjoyable experience of success in STEM? Does it support interest in STEM? Does it increase STEM knowledge and understanding? And does it increase confidence in STEM? If the answers to these questions are yes, then we have reason to think that the game can support STEM identity and self-efficacy. So to answer these questions, I'm going to show you a bit of data. These data were collected at Berkeley Public Library, California Academy of Sciences, Stanislaus County Library, and KU Natural History Museum. We used a mixed methods approach, which included surveys, observations, interviews, pre-post tests, and many more. I can talk more about our methods in the Q&A if you're curious about them, but for now, I think it'll be clear enough what we did if I just show you the data. So the first question, are participants successful? Does it give them a feeling of success? The answer is yes. 48 out of 51 groups that we observed completed all puzzles within the time limit. You see this group is happily bragging that they have 20 minutes to spare left. Was Venom Venture fun and engaging? You might guess that the answer to that is yes, based on this photograph, but that is also true if we look at the data. We offered participants a post survey after they played the game, and we asked them to rate their agreement with the following Likert items. I had a lot of fun playing this game, and I'd be excited to play a game like this with science puzzles again. And the vast majority of participants responded either yes or yes, they were having a lot of fun and wanted to do it again. Our qualitative results also support these conclusions. We directly observed families having a lot of fun. They were laughing and exclaiming. We asked families to write their reflections on some big banners afterwards, and they said the same sorts of things on these banners. So player 102 says, "This was so fun," and player 103 says, "I totally agree with 102. And finally, in the lower left-hand corner here, our reservation software asks families to leave a review if they'd like. This is totally optional, but I am nevertheless pleased to say that as of today, we have only 5-star reviews, and families had just consistently say that they had a ton of fun playing the game. So it is fun and engaging. Does it support interest in STEM? The answer to this is yes. Again, on a Likert item after playing the game, we asked families to rate their agreement with the statement, "This game made me more interested in topics that are a part of science or medicine." And the vast majority of folks said either yes or yes in response to that statement. And then on the written reflection banners, we also asked families to write down anything that the game made them think about that they might have wanted to explore more. And 40% of respondents said that it made them want to explore ancestry and evolution more, and 14% said that it made them want to explore antivenom and curing diseases more, both STEM topics. And then finally, 4 weeks after playing the game, we followed up with a subset of families and asked about their experience after the game. And we found that 64% of respondents said that they had talked about some science concepts that were in the game afterwards. 33% did some of the comic book activities, which were all about STEM concepts. 22% looked up science or evolution information from the game. 19% talked about medical or science careers related to the game. And 11% explored links from a follow-up email that was sent to them. And those links were all about different STEM-related activities. So, important question, does the game actually improve families' knowledge of STEM concepts? The answer to this is yes. We gave families a pre-test before playing the game and then a post-test, and that test was focused on tree thinking skills. And families scored significantly better on the post-test than they did in the pre-test. So they learned something in the game. And importantly, that knowledge game, for the most part, stayed with them over time. So we followed up again with those families, with the subset of families, 4 weeks after playing the game. And while we see that there is a little drop in score, on their post test, that follow-up test that was very similar to the ones that they took before and after the game. There's a small drop in score on the follow-up test, as you'd expect. It's been 4 weeks, they've forgotten something, but that follow-up score is still significantly higher than their pre-test score. So they're still retaining a lot of the knowledge that they gained during the game. Qualitative results also support our conclusions about learning. So this orange quote is from a child that said it made you feel like a scientist. People wrote things on the banner like, I learned about the tree of evolution. And this green quote is from an adult who says, I like that it focused on a singular concept and presented the information in multiple ways, in multiple dimensions, so that you could test your understanding of the concept by layering it and thinking about it with different symbols. So this player honed in on exactly our pedagogical approach in the game. So it was gratifying to hear her put that into words. Final question here. Do families gain confidence in their knowledge of STEM concepts from playing the game? And the answer to this is yes. We gave families, again, that pre-test and post-test, and we asked them to rate how confident they felt about their answers to the test. And there was a significant increase in families' confidence in their STEM knowledge from on the post-test compared to the pre-test. So we conclude from these data that Venom Venture can support STEM identity and self-efficacy as part of a landscape of informal STEM ed experiences offered by libraries and natural history museums. And we have a lot of people to thank for their work on this project, including all of the support staff at our institutions and at the libraries and museums that we've visited. Very importantly, our advisors from all different sorts of stakeholders in this project, as well as our volunteers, and especially our volunteer playtesters. And finally, our funding agency, the National Institutes of Health SEPA program. And we'd like to leave you with an invitation. If this was interesting to you and you'd like to get involved or you have any further questions, please do email us. We have an online form that you can fill out. As I mentioned before, we have our current tour, our current funding cycle is sort of set, but again, we are hoping to continue this in the future. So if you're interested in hosting a game like this or collaborating on a similar sort of project in the future, please fill out the form or email us to connect with us, because we're looking for future partners. And then there are some other links here. You can explore the project website, links to download our comic book in English or Spanish, and some articles for you to take a look at. So thank you very much. I'm not sure where I am, but I'm going to stop sharing and turn myself off.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And again, we'll get to questions. Please use the question answer feature. We'll get to those after our second presentation, which it is time for now, by Thomas Yount. Cultivating climate literacy through cooperative gameplay. So if you are ready to do so, take it away, Thomas.
Hello, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. My name's Thomas Yount. I'm the founder of the educational game company called Clean Earth Future, and the creator of the game Climate Cooldown. So in this presentation, Cultivating Climate Literacy Through Cooperative Gameplay, I'll be highlighting the potential transformative impact of game-based learning materials that focus on climate literacy, such as the game Climate Cooldown, and the impact it can have on individuals across various settings, including schools, libraries, local communities. And these materials, I believe, have the capacity to foster development of social emotional learning skills, cultivate individual agency, and strengthen community resilience through climate justice. So just a quick little outline here. I'll do a little theoretical background on how this applies to libraries, Climate Cooldown, the board game itself, and then some case studies and reflections on them. And these would be real stories from experience that I've had playing the game. And then lastly, concluding thoughts. So to pull from the resilient communities libraries respond to climate change by the ALA, as respected community and resource centers, libraries are well positioned to mobilize citizens to learn about climate change and take action at home, in our towns and cities, and around the world. Together, we can future-proof and adapt. At this unique turning point in history, we are the generation to rescue our collective future by dismantling systemic oppressions, reversing overconsumption, creating protective and forward-thinking policies, and enabling practices that put people and the planet first and prioritize a just energy transition. With this in mind, I believe that gameplay, cooperative gameplay, provides a platform for building character, problem-based learning, and critical thinking for people of all ages. So now I would like to take just a quick look at the game board here and the region sheets for this game. If you take a look at the top, there's a global meter, and that represents the increasing temperature of the planet from the right to left-hand side. On the bottom, we have the impact meter, which is our impact on the planet, us burning fossil fuels and polluting the environment. Around the map, you can see there's 4 regions of the globe. Each of these regions have a different amount of resources, which is part of the reason why it's so important to be a cooperative game to help each other. And there are the goals of the game of bringing the meters into the blue, so reducing our impact on the planet, to heal the land and ocean. You can see the L's and O's on the map. And for each region to divest from a fossil fuel. Taking a look, there's disasters each round of the game during the 5 rounds of gameplay. And this is one, for example, deforestation. There's both natural and anthropogenic or human-related disasters in the game. There's 37 different climate solutions, both individual and macro, that help reduce our impact on the planet and heal the Earth. This is one great example, reduce food waste, which lowers the impact meter. There's a need to divest from unsustainable power in the game as well by transitioning to sustainable power sources. For example, we have coal over here on one side, unsustainable, and geothermal on the other side here. And we also address food waste, how we can improve food distribution, land restoration, for example, agroforestry, and protecting the oceans, for example, ocean cleanup. Climate Cool Down is a cooperative game. And so in order to win, everyone must work together. And I really stress that. And I made that an important point here because I think that there's something to say about cooperative games when we work together. It brings out something in each other that's really positive and optimistic. So donating, diplomacy are all important factors in this game as well. So Climate Cool Down as a whole shines a light of optimism. It counters prevailing dystopian narratives in the media. It empowers individuals to develop character and confidence, cultivates climate leaders, and fosters civic engagement. So now I want to go over some case studies, and these are all real experiences I've had with people in age groups of as young as 8 to as old as 80. And each of these examples will illustrate building character and with reflections on social emotional learning from gameplay. In the first one, it was at Roland Heights Nature Center and a Nature in Your Neighborhood event. The age group was about 8 to 12, and the game started with a girl saying, "Okay, my turn's done, next." And then a boy nearby says, "What's a cool down card again?" once he drew one. And then she said, "It's a climate solution." And he said, "Really? That's so cool. I love this game already." And then she says, "Hey, you always say you don't like school. Looks like you do now. Just happy to see you happy and learning." And then he said, "Yeah, I like learning this way more than normal." And then later on in the game, she says, "Oh no, what disaster did you draw?" And he said, "Plastic pollution. Hey guys, hang on a minute." And you see he runs over, picks up some trash and throws it away in the park. And then he comes back and says, "Thanks for waiting. I had to throw away some trash I saw earlier." So in this moment, I really was thinking about how, they're having fun interacting and learning, being social, creating positive mindsets, and, a sense of self-efficacy, like going out, taking action immediately. Later on in this day as well, they talked about doing organizing a trash pickup at the same park. I want to touch on this book, Teaching When the World is on Fire. I believe it applies to this as well. All Portland Public School students should develop confidence and passion when it comes to making a positive difference in society. And it is vital that students reflect on local impacts of the climate crisis and recognize how their own communities and lives are implicated. Just briefly, I'd like to touch on the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL's 5 competence domains. We're going to apply each of these to case studies moving forward. The first is self-awareness. Next, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. So now I'm going to go in order and apply each of these to a study. The next one was at a gaming convention, Gateway 2023, at the Hilton LAX with two men in their 70s or 80s. So they approached me and asked, so what is this game? And I said, it's a cooperative game about saving the planet from the climate crisis. Oh my, what an idea. If you ask me, we're already doomed. And his friend said, well, you want to try playing it? And he said, sure, why not? So then after this, 45 minutes later, I said, hey, that's it. We just won the game. And he said, no way. I didn't think we were going to make it most of the game. And the other friend said, neither did I. That was impressive. So do you think we have a chance to turn things around? And I said, yes, I do. So in this reflection, self-awareness domain, I think this was a good example of people confronting some of their eco-anxiety and sense of doom and gloom. The importance here is like recognizing our limitations of our thinking and developing a positive mindset and optimism. So that was really cool to see here. In the next example here, this is a fourth grade classroom, and students were playtesting the game before it was officially released. And here we have a girl drawing a power card. And when she draws it, she says, yes, I got solar, she says as she's jumping up and down. And then another boy in the class says, okay, now it's my turn. And he draws, oh no, what? Come on, I got nuclear. And then a girl asks, why are you upset? And he says, oh, it's a bad card. And another student says, I think it's good though. The teacher hears this and so decides, you know what, I'm going to come over and discuss. So she says, hey, everyone, let's discuss it together. One thing about this moment here is the ability for the teacher to help manage the students' emotions during gameplay and students to reflect on what their feelings are and have a chance to talk about them. And I think that this is like a really wonderful element to playing games together. It can open the floor for discussion such as this. In the next example here, with Whittier Narrows and the city of Paramount, there was about 100 people that came, and there's 4 different groups of 25 people, and this was one of the groups. And this is age range from young children to elderly. So as I started explaining the game, I start, when the game begins, each region draws a disaster card. Can someone please draw one? And then a little girl says, sure, I'll draw one. I asked, what did you draw? She says, air pollution. Then I asked, can anyone share a story that relates to air pollution? And one woman said, yes, we have a metal refinery near our home that smells terrible. And we've complained, but we were told by the city council that it's okay for our health. Then I asked, how do you feel about being told this? And they said, well, we still feel it's concerning to the health of our community. And then I asked, has anyone taken any further steps to resolve this issue? And then they said, no, we're unsure what to do now. We've tried letting them know how bad it is for us, and they just insist that it's fine. So in this example, the community had a chance to identify an issue they have and talk about it together. This woman discussing it with me was only one conversation had in total. There was other people who shared as well. It was a really good chance for everyone in the community to kind of connect on an issue that they can relate to and develop a sense of relatedness and compassion. Next, this is an extracurricular teen community group that got together. It was ages like around 12 to 16. And we started playing the game, and this one kid begins, I hardly have any resources left after that drought disaster card. Can someone please help me? And then the next guy says, maybe next round. And then the first kid says again, come on, I need help. Can someone please get diplomacy with me? And then another kid says, sure, I'll help. Besides, this is a cooperative game. Then he replies, thank you so much. Don't worry, I'll get diplomacy with you later and donate back. And then much later in the game, before they wrap, our group's doing so good that group over there looks like they're gonna lose, probably because they have 3 girls in their group, right? And then one of the kids says, hey, that's not how that works at all. And another says, yeah, that's sexist. You should rethink that comment. And then the kid apologized, saying, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. So in this instance, there was two major things or 3 major things going on. You have a kid who's learning to ask for help. He's really stating he needs help, and someone who is able to have compassion for him and say, you know what, I'm going to help you out. This is like a really good interaction that showed an example of someone speaking out for their needs. Also, this example of being able to negotiate conflict constructively with someone making an inappropriate comment and people being able to speak out against it and then resolve it in a calm and peaceful manner. And then in this discussion here, we have the U.S. Green Building Council Los Angeles team just doing like a team building session. And so we have, and they're about the age group of like 30 to 50. And so it begins, so what are you going to do, Ryan? And he says, I think I'll get diplomacy with Lauren. And then Lauren says, why? I don't need your help right now. And he says, but you might in the future. And she says, true, but you need to take care of your own region first, I think. It's okay to be a little selfish here if it'll help us all in the end. And then, not too much longer later in the game, another guy, Brandon, says, I can get a cooldown, a power card, or a diplomacy tile. What do you guys think I should do? And then another says, now, Brandon, you're gonna have to make a decision on your own this time. And then Brandon says, I still need another sustainable power card, but I'm concerned about drawing an unsustainable one. And then she says, I guess you're just gonna have to live with the consequences of your decisions. So in this, responsible decision making was exemplified very well. There's one guy, Ryan, who basically is not looking after his own region, and by doing so could set back the game, and someone else helping to make a constructive choice with him on that level, and someone else who's afraid of making decisions and the impact they have on themselves. And in self-determination theory, talks about autonomy, competence to demonstrate skills and develop new ones, and relatedness through social bonding. And I think this exemplifies as well. So just to briefly touch on a people's curriculum for the Earth, despite the dimensions of the environmental crisis, students can approach this frightening content in ways that are lively and playful. And no matter which classes we teach, educators need to find ways to help young people develop the analytical tools to understand the causes of the environmental crisis and to exercise their utopian imaginations to consider alternatives. In conclusion, cooperative games and gameplay have the potential to cultivate climate literacy, social emotional learning, agency, and community resiliency in multiple settings, including libraries. Making games like Climate Cooldown available in libraries can improve accessibility to fun and engaging climate education for learners of many age groups. So I have next generation science standards in this, if you want to check them out, my references, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you all for these last 2 presentations. And we're going to move on to some Q&A. Let me just check that. All right, so have some questions that have rolled in. For Anna, how expensive is it to host the Venom Venture? It sounds like a fun idea for a campus family day or homecoming weekend.
Well, so we have a grant right now. So the sites that are hosting it now are, the grant pays for travel. If we don't manage to get another grant, then we would rent it out for the cost of shipping, which really depends on your location, but it's definitely upwards of $500 to ship and return, sometimes ranging into several thousand, depending on where you are. But again, we're hoping to get a grant, and where we could send it on another tour and have all of the costs paid.
Nice.
Do you mind if I just jump in, Anna, to add
Please
just
do.
the question about the context? Something to keep in mind is the duration. So for example, because you can only have groups of 2 to 5 players through in a sort of designated time period, if you only offered it for one day, just being aware that that sort of constrains the number of groups you can go through. So often places will take it for multiple weeks to make sure that it's available for as many groups as possible. So while it could be done one day, you wouldn't see a lot of group coming through, but that might fit with what you're doing.
And since it's at cost, it doesn't cost any more to keep it. This is not a money-making venture for anyone. This is about families learning and having fun. So it doesn't cost any more to keep it for longer. Yeah.
Thank you. This is a question that came in for both presentations, right? So we'll start with Anna and Teresa, and then toss it over to Thomas. How do you market your games, especially to people who might be resistant to your specific missions?
Well, this is how we market to libraries, this sort of presentation, but I think you mean to to people who might want to play. And I guess in all of the usual ways that you might advertise programming, libraries put it up on their social media and on their calendars. I've sent out notices to free weeklies. In addition to families, we have a lot of young adults who want to play, or adult groups who just like playing escape games and have a lot of fun with that. It's not marketed as learn about evolution. It's marketed as Venom Venture, come play the educational escape game. So and it's it's not really about human evolution or about very many things that are controversial. It's really about some basic science concepts that are applicable across the board. So we haven't encountered in our rollout resistance to the ideas that are in the game. Do you have anything to add, Teresa?
No, I would just say I think it's not focused on what for many people are hot button issues related to evolution. Like you said, doesn't involve people, so we really haven't had pushback, but we're also pretty clear what it's about. I mean, we don't provide a lot of description, but people know. And I would say some of it depends on context too. So people coming to the Natural History Museum, you're going to expect most of our stuff is about evolutionary biology already. So I'd say no, we really haven't had any concerns. And it did just spend a run in a rural Kansas library. And as far as I'm aware, they didn't have any issues. I didn't have issues when I was there helping them set up. So it's been a really positive reception to it.
Thomas, what about with your games? Any?
Great question. So for my game, I'm mostly doing marketing on social media as educational content. So for each of the 72 cards of the game, I've done little posts that are unique with music that I've made for each post that's themed out. And I've had a lot of good responses. And discussions started at these posts, which is awesome. And then in person, when going to events, I partner with many different nature centers, as you've seen, like Whittier Narrows, Eden Canyon, San Dimas Canyon, to name a few. I've had really good response. Sometimes people in a negative way might say, oh, well, isn't this just a depressing game because we're going to lose? And it's really interesting because it gives people a chance to kind of reflect on their mindset. And think about the reason why I created this game actually was to open up these limitations that we have in our thinking and being able to model doing the things that we're saying we're going to do to help heal the planet. So yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. There's a question here. If there's time at the end, there is time at the end. How have you, I'm sorry, this is for Anna and Teresa. How have you and participating institutions handled registration and attendance, and how can institutions bring Venom Venture to their communities?
Super. Thank you for your interest. The game comes with booking software that is part of the current grant. So we'll set up the software for all of our host sites with their desired time slots, and families sign up ahead of time like they would for a normal escape game, except that it's free. So they're never asked to pay for anything. And the software sends them an email reminder and a text reminder and things like that. That said, some libraries that we've worked with have said, we have our own system, or we prefer to use Eventbrite, and our patrons are familiar with that. That also is totally fine. So we just have this system in place in case a library needs it. Some venues that we've been at are very busy, so we have not used the reservation system at all. When we were at California Academy of Sciences, we didn't book, for the most part, we didn't book any reservations ahead of time. We didn't use the reservation software because they have so many visitors there that we could keep the game busy just with people who were walking through. And I know that there was a second part of the question, but how can you bring it to your site?
That's it.
Yep. So if you go into the slide folders, the folder that has all of the slides for everybody's presentation, and you go to our presentation, and you go down to that last slide where I was saying, if you want to bring it, click on this link and fill out a form. There's a form there. I will also put that form in the chat. Let me just locate it, and if you just hang on a minute, I'll put it on. If I don't know if Teresa wants.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, and that resource document has been shared several times and will continue to be throughout the rest of the day. Another question for Thomas came in from Twitch. How did you find spaces to host the game? This is a related question, I feel. How did you find spaces to host the game? I noticed a fair number of community spaces. How'd you go about setting up those sessions?
That's a great question. A lot of it happened organically through just visiting nature centers in the area and talking to the people who work there, bringing a copy of the game and just talking with them about it. What's my goal? My goal is to improve climate literacy and, inspire civic engagement and community engagement. And it aligned really well with what they were trying to do at these nature centers. And from there, that kind of bridged outward to other opportunities. I met a lot of people at these events. And from there, there's other organizations as I met, US Green Building Council. I'm now a partner with them, and they're going to be getting climate cool down into schools through their Green Schools program. And I'm also in talks right now with LAUSD and among other organizations as well who are interested in partnering.
Awesome. All right, I think we have time for one more question, and let me make sure I'm clearing these questions where they are. For Anna and Teresa, would it be possible to get a copy of your assessment and questions to model anyone building their own games?
Yes. So those will most easily be available once our evaluation report is complete. So we'll be publishing a full evaluation of the game and its outcomes, and all of those assessment items will be included in that. That said, I'm happy to share them before that's available. I just don't have them all in one place at the moment. The easiest way might actually be to share our human subjects approval, because we have to submit all of our documents and all of our assessment tools to our human subjects board before running them. So if you email me, and I'll put my email in the chat, and you tell me what sorts of assessments you're interested in, I can send you copies of those assessments. And then once our evaluation report is complete, it should be another couple months. Then all of those will be included in that document, and you can get them there. So I'll just put my email here, and if you want to shoot me an email, I can send you copies of any of our instruments.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much. That's the last question. We're at time now. So well done, everyone. What we're going to do is put a link in the chat so people attending right now can give feedback to these presenters. It's a short 4-question survey, and I believe that still has the incentivized attachment with it. And there it is. Rebecca just put a bunch of links in the chat for that and more. Thank you all so much once again. We're going to take a little bit of a break before switching to our next session, and we will reconvene at 2 p.m. Central Time to get going with that next block. So we will see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.